Alright people, welcome to this little series of video about the signs' energies. Not necessarily the sun sign, the moon, the ascendant, Mars. Any planet or placement you got in there, you could make analogies between this planet's energy and I'm going to talk about Scorpio's energy and kind of get a feel for how that part of yourself should play out according to astrology. Okay, so what is Scorpio? Scorpio in the Zodiac is the 8th sign. It's a fixed sign, so they're focused on something. When they have their mind made up, they've got their mind made up, and it's really hard for them to change that, or for anybody to make them change that. They're a water sign, so they feel things. They're understanding in their emotion and how they naturally express themselves. It depends on what planet or thing is in there, but it's gonna come from an emotional place. They're represented by Mars and Pluto. So they're both fiery planets ruling over a watery sign. So this shows in Scorpio's temperament. You know, as much as they're emotional and sensitive, they're gonna have this tougher warrior aspect that wants to burn through bullshit. Okay, their opposite sign is Taurus. So Taurus is a lot about creating like a certain sense of stability, right? And they're represented by Venus, the opposite of Mars. The feminine principle, they make things beautiful. But Scorpio, you know, they're on the same axis where like they want this certain sense of truth and security and stability to their life, but they don't approach it from the same way, you know. Whereas Taurus wants to create harmony, to feel like the security of life, Scorpio just wants to burn through the bullshit so that they don't have to worry about people being liars or whatever like that, you know. What else? Yeah, they're represented by the genitalia, so the penis and the vagina. And I mean, it shows in their temperament, right? Scorpio likes to penetrate into people's mind. And at the same time, they like to close themselves off so people can't penetrate them easily. Like they take their time to open themselves up. And people like often say that like Scorpio is like one of the most sexual sign. I think it is true in a sense, but not in like, oh, like, I'm gonna go after everybody. Although I know some Scorpios that like to do that. They like to get a taste of everybody's water, you know. But that said, I feel like Scorpio was more about seeing what's up behind the scenes, seeing without filters. So having making love to someone enables them to go deep into what that person is, right? It enables them to like feel what this person is all about. Okay, so they're kind of like a darker sign. They represent death of many things, but the way I see it is the death of fakeness, the death of lies, and the death of their ego, only for a rebirth after. You know, that's kind of what Pluto does. It destroys so that a new version of it could come out. You know, it's a really it's not really subtle. People say it's subtle, but I really feel that energy. It's just this spirit over mind and over matter, you know. So it's like this uncontrollable force that propels them to understand their nature, to understand how important it is to be truthful, how everything is connected, how they could go from this little Scorpio thing, just burn themselves up through Mars, which is a fire sign. It's internal because it's more watery, and they just come out as this phoenix, right? And I like that because I've heard other people say that, and I had made this analogies by myself. But anyways, so having that said, knowing that their watery sign represented by a fiery planet, it makes them, you know, as much as like they're feelers, it's like this fiery energy just accumulates in them it builds up, it builds up, it builds up, kind of like if you're boiling water, right? They could be very subtle, they could be just like laid back, kind of analyzing stuff, but at one point the water is boiling. They're either going to be very volatile, like it's gonna like just explode on you in a certain way, like you'll see a shitload of bubbles and like you know, or like they're gonna like, if they feel that you've pissed them enough, you've been untrue enough for them to like slowly build up that resentment. At one point they're gonna burn you, but not in the same way that like Aries would do it, or that Leo would do it, or that Sagittarius would do it, you know? Like they're gonna like burn you inside. They're gonna burn the fakeness that is present in your being. But it's like a hot vapor, you know? You won't be burned, you won't be dead physically, but you'll feel like, holy shit, like what just happened to me? And you might have to like take time to just like realize why it is that this just happened, you know? What else? The sign that comes just before is the sign of Libra. So the sign of Libra, you know, it's about relationships also, and like dealing with those. But Libra isn't so much about like seeing the bullshit and like being like, oh no, like this isn't like what it is, like this is what it is. Like they're not as much as a detective as Scorpio. They're more like trying to make things smooth between people, make things smooth in their friend circle, you know. And the sign after Scorpio is Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is really like, I feel like they've got a really high moral code. They like to be truthful. They like to follow a certain set of rules, or follow a certain path. And I feel it is because they understood in Scorpio how to recognize what was true and what was false. So Sagittarius knows what is best for him most of the time. They know what could help them expand their consciousness because they've seen behind the filters as they were in Scorpio before. What else? Yeah, their color, I think, if you're using the chromatic system, could be like a dark crimson red, like something that's like, it's intense, but at the same time, it doesn't have as much, well, Scorpios have a good vitality, but it doesn't like, you know, Aries is red too, but it's a flashy, like scarlet cherry red, kind of like that, you know? Scorpio is more like a darker red, kind of like the almost blood-like red, you know? They're really internal people too. So yeah, that you could kind of see that in them. But I've also seen them as as having the color black. I mean, they represent the death of the ego, the death of the self, the death of fakeness, and the rebirth of it. The rebirth of themselves. They might still be fake. They might like have trouble truly opening up their darker side to other people. So it could kind of make them like feel like they don't want as much of like an emotional bond with someone, but it's only because they protect themselves, but they also protect the other person from their perspective, because there's so much darkness in them, or they feel like there's so much trauma that has been accumulated and so much shit has happened to them that it is for the best interest of the world for them to just keep certain things for themselves. Like once you really get to know one of them, like they'll open up, like, you know, they'll open up and like if actually you show your own darker side that you don't usually show to everybody, like they'll feel more at ease at opening up theirs, because they'll be like, okay, like it's a fair exchange, kind of. What else? Yeah. You know, there's so many things I could say, yet there's nothing I'm saying right now. I feel like you know, people say that they often make like good detectives, and I feel that it's because, and again, this will depend on like what planet you got in there. I mean, if you got like Venus, you might not be as much of a detective as a Sun sign Scorpio or Mercury sign Scorpio, but like, you know, you'll be looking to open up yourself, open up your dark side through like emotional relationships, and you'll try to like help people and maybe even like rescue people who need help because you see their darker side. But talking about the detective aspect of them, I feel like they know how, since they try to see the world, and most of the time they try to see the world from this place where there is no filter, you know, from this, a lot of their reasoning comes from their, well, it depends. I mean, if their Mercury is placed in like an air sign, it could change things up a little bit, but their reasoning is mostly coming from like an emotional standpoint. And since they've been fake themselves in their lives and they've seen how fucked up the world is at times, they know the worth of their emotional foundation and their emotional stability, and they're very much prone to protect that. And they have like a strong sense of self in the sense that they know if someone isn't being true, because they know how themselves would feel if they were hiding something or if they were lying. You know, the emotional foundation wouldn't be as stable, so they're very good at like sizing if someone's lying or sizing what someone is hiding. Because once they see this lack of like emotional grounding, they can go and ask questions or see little details that will like enable them to like get the answer that they want, even if the question they're asking isn't like directly what they want, you know, like like it's really tough to make an example like that, but let's say they want to know why they want to know like why you left early the other day at the party, you know, but they don't want to ask you directly because that might make you close yourself up. So like they're gonna ask a question like maybe from an emotional standpoint, like, oh, like it was pretty cool at the party yesterday, huh? And then it's like they can kind of get a feel for what the person truly feels, because like the person isn't gonna like necessarily like, you know, if they were asked like, why did you leave early? I'm like, oh, I was just tired. But if they ask like, oh, how did you, and like, it was pretty cool at the party yesterday, huh? And they can kind of like size up like what the other person is about from the answer that they give. So that this makes them really good detective in that sense. Yeah, Scorpios are a really cool sign. They're kind of chaotic in a sense, but they're also really purposeful and really focused on their aims. The reason for that, for their focus, is Mars, right? It's a masculine energy, it's a logical energy in a feeler sign, in like an internal like emotional self. So like they can be like skeptics because their logical self will always try to rationalize their feelings in a sense, or explain them in like a physical masculine way. But the reason they're chaotic is because of Pluto. Pluto is just a power that they have, but it's really hard to like have the power over Pluto. You just roll around with it. And if you do as Pluto wants, if you're able to like harness the energy and just ride the wave, Pluto's gonna destroy you. But it's gonna rebuild you after in something way better, you know? So like they're kind of chaotic like that because there's always this energy behind them that's like burning the bullshit of everybody, making like this their surroundings like rethink themselves, like making like I've seen like some Scorpios, like they make like computers like bug, like they make a lot of their whole surrounding is electrified. And since they're a water sign with like a fiery planet, I feel that like they're kind of represented by steam sometimes. So like their aura or their energy, it kind of like is able to size people because it's just like steam. So it just like gets in the room and they get a feel for like different things around them, because steam is just everywhere and people breathe steam. They breathe the Scorpio's water. So they, you know, they get a feel for what they feel the Scorpion's energy, and the Scorpio feels them. And at the same time, I feel like Scorpio, because of that, but well, maybe not because of that, but I could link it to that. They want to have an emotional control over what's surrounding them. So if somebody's like not being at the same vibration or the same like emotional state as the vapor that they're surrounding people with, they're gonna try to impose their energy on that person. If they're not like at that Phoenix level yet, they're gonna try to impose that energy on the person because they feel that the way the reason they're feeling like that is legitimate to them. So why would you be happy? Why would you not go in their emotional state? That's how they feel. So they're gonna try to bring you there. Sometimes it could be like negative in a sense, like that they're gonna bring you down, you know? What else? I feel like that's a lot that has to be said about Scorpio. I always kind of forget something in my videos. I'm like, oh, and then my Virgo moon is like, oh, should I remake it? So let me just like take a few seconds there. Yeah, really loyal people, they can be a little bit like overwhelming at times because they don't fully control their emotions, and if they do, they feel like they're closing themselves off from the world a little bit. So like, you know, and they like to protect what they love. They like to there's this warrior Mars energy. They like to, you know, remove the bullshit that surrounds people that they love. So yeah, that's my motherfucking take on Scorpio. So hot in here. Straight out of the shower, like, oh, and I'm already sweating.